Hey everyone, one quick clarification I wanted to make about t-tests because I'm seeing the same mistake being made over and over and over again. So quick clarification. When you have a dependent samples t-test, also called a paired samples t-test, you are comparing two related groups, two related numbers. So you have your same sample and you gave them a pre-test and a post-test and you're comparing that. Or you have husband and wife, two partners, something like that. You have a boss and employee. You have two samples that I'm saying within my data set, this number and this number are related to each other. This number and this number are related to each other. And you're comparing different scores on there. Okay. That's the dependent or the paired samples. The one sample or the single sample t-test, what you're doing is saying, I have this number that I know about a group that already exists. I know their mean and their standard deviation. And I have my sample that I have information about. And I'm comparing my sample to this known group. Okay. What neither of these t-tests compares two groups that you have gone and gotten information about. That's a different kind that we're going to talk about next week. That's an independent samples t-test. So let me give you an example. If I wanted to look at, does eating chocolate chip cookies affect the race times of middle school boys who run track? Okay. I might have two different ways I could do this for the types of t-tests we talked about this week. If I want to set up a dependent sample or a paired samples t-test, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get maybe the first half of the track season, I measure these boys' run times. The second half of the track season, I'm giving them chocolate chip cookies before their track meets, and I'm comparing their run times when they did and did not have the chocolate chip cookies of the same boys. Okay. Or if I was going to do a one samples t-test, maybe there is some state organization for middle school track that keeps tabs on what is the average run time in the state of middle school boys for this event. Okay. And I'm comparing the numbers I have for my boys that I was giving the chocolate chip cookies to my state numbers that I already know because there's some organization keeping track of this. Okay. That would be your one sample or your single sample. So my dependent paired sample would be the two tests, the pre-test and the post-test, track times without the cookies, track times with the cookies. And my one sample would be comparing them to the state numbers. What I would not do for either of these tests would be to split the boys in half and give some of them cookies and some not. Or to compare one group of boys who was eating chocolate chip cookies with one group of boys who was eating carrot sticks. Okay, those would be two totally separate groups. They'd be two independent groups. And so for that, we would use the independent t-test, which again, we're going to be talking about next week. So within your examples that you set up for your discussion board, and then also the examples that you're going to see on this week's assignment, there will not be independent samples t-test. You're going to have a chance to work with that next week. But so if any of your examples, you're proposing taking this group and comparing it to this totally separate group, that's not quite the right track. And that's some of the feedback that I'm having to write the same thing over and over, which is why I wanted to make that clarification. Okay. If I wanted to look at the impact of, my dog just ran by, look at the impact of having a dog on anxiety, I could study a group of individuals in their 20s and 30s who have been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, have them do an anxiety inventory, get a baseline number for them. The ones that ended up getting a dog, I could follow them, survey them again 6 months afterwards, right? Pre-test, post-test situation here. And I could see just having the dog reduce their anxiety levels. Or maybe, again, I have some sort of national average that I'm aware of that individuals in their 20s and 30s on this anxiety inventory, if they've been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, tend to score this. So maybe I could compare my dog owners in their 20s and 30s with what I know this psychometric nationally normed number is. And I could have a one samples t-test, right? I have my sample, the group of people with the dog, and I have my known population average. So that would be the examples we're working this week. Again, what I would not do would be compare dog owners with non-dog owners, or compare dog owners or within my group. Like I wouldn't split them up and say, you guys got dogs, I'm going to compare you to you who didn't get dogs. Or I wouldn't compare dog owners to cat owners. All right. Again, those would be two separate groups that I would be creating in those examples. And that would be what we're going to talk about next week with an independent samples t-test. So hopefully that helps clear things up a little bit. If you're still struggling, feel free to email and we will brainstorm this further.